me started as a grueling therapy during lockdown that gave me something other than the pandemic to focus on. It came at a time when the world seemed so bleak, and I remember watching videos of skaters on YouTube, twirling in the sunshine of California, with the grace and confidence that I'd never felt, wishing I was there. Slowly, as I watched the videos, I realised that I had a lot of time on my hands, that it was probably the only time I would ever have such a luxury, with no work, no university, no obligations, and no friends. I spent the furlough I earned doing nothing on my first pair of skates. It wasn't quite enough just to have skates though. Back then, I needed to reach that pure joy that the skating videos seemed to radiate. I bought outfits, hair scrunchies, high socks, and bum bags, always thinking of the skaters that seemed to radiate confidence. It reminded me of being a child, not because skating is a childish thing, but the sheer excitement of putting on my skates and skating gear was like dressing up as my favourite superhero. I felt like I couldn't be conquered, and as I desperately stumbled out into the cold spring air, I realised that I made a mistake. The first time I went forwards, I catapulted onto my knees, and the crack of my knee pad on the concrete made me wince. But I got up again. Rinse, repeat. And eventually I went from stumbling outside to standing, and from standing to rolling forwards. The aesthetic of skating in the sunshine when you're lounging under the light bulbs of lockdown is obviously very appealing. I didn't quite realise at the time how much work it would be. My driveway became my training ground, my elderly neighbours, my supporters. Every day as I wobbled about or I tried a new trick, they stuck their head out of the door and asked me if I was trying to get into the Olympics. The first week I laughed this off, but 2 months later, as I finally executed a move that had been evading me, I looked them dead in the eyes and I said, yes. It's a therapy, it's grueling. I spent hours in the same tiny patch of concrete, forwards and backwards, practicing spinning, jumps, grinds, 180s, until the dye from my skates stained my socks from the sheer amount of sweat. The repetitive movements were dizzying, but there was something immensely satisfying about when I woke up in the morning and I strapped myself in my skates, determined to be a little better than I was the day before. The monotonous actions paired with my music and the occasional burst of sun from behind the grey British clouds was enough to make me forget about the pandemic. If I stopped concentrating for a second on the literal wheels drilled into my feet, I would fall. So I left the thoughts of face masks and social distancing and longing for my extended family behind, like shrugging off a coat. I quite literally skated away from my problems. I learned to hate sticks and pebbles and leaves. I raged at gravel and roads. I swore at my feet for faltering and my thighs for daring to burn. But I loved it. I loved the wobbles and the unsteady feeling because of the adrenaline it brought me. I loved jamming my headphones into my ear and skating down a hill with such vigour that I hit 30 miles an hour. I bled and I bruised and I told potholes to bugger off, and eventually I stopped stumbling. I didn't quite become a graceful, elegant skater right away like I'd pictured, but my wheels merged with my feet until we were no longer separate entities. I fell a lot. I bruised and bled probably too much. But that's the price you pay for skating, and I pay it tenfold just to feel the wind in my hair. Despite the embarrassment of failure, the pain of falling, and the frustration of not being perfect immediately, I loved the thrill of trying something new and knowing I would fail the first 10 times, but praying I would earn it on the 11th. When you think of such a hobby, it's hard to see past the novelty of it. I say I roller skate with the same trepidation of someone who says they like model trains or collecting dolls. It feels sometimes like a childish whim that I haven't quite grown out of. Others may think this too, but if they could see me speedy and free and trusting my body, all ideas of skating being an odd quirk would be driven from their minds. It's also so much more than my pride at having cultivated a niche and arguably dying skill. Roller skating is my freedom, my mental health, my reason for being outside when even stepping a foot over the doorstep seems unfathomable. I trust my body on skates I never trusted otherwise. My anxiety on skates vanishes because it has no room to breathe. Instead of focusing on my worries, I must focus on my balance, my movements, or not crashing into any stray children. When I go for walks, listen to music, draw, or write, my mind wanders. It loops around until it finds a distraction. Sometimes the distraction is simply that, other times it's my brain's harsh attempts at making me feel worthless. But with skating, if I stop concentrating, I fall, I hurt. And the promise of a concrete kiss on my backside keeps me focused, driven, until nothing else, not even the worries that have followed me like a shadow my whole life, matters. Ask anyone what they gained from skating and they will mention the community that surrounds us. When I first started skating, I couldn't find a skating group for my local area, so I made one myself. The group is called Liverpool Roller Skaters, and they have made my entire life better. Skating alone gives you freedom, but not even the children pointing at you excitedly or the adults smiling bemusedly make you feel totally understood. I wanted people to know the name of my tricks, to compliment the colour choices of my skates, to discuss different wheels with. And I found them. I feel totally understood by my group, and not just only because they know what skating is. We seem to have the same giddy urge for fun and the same slightly sadistic urge to try something new and a little crazy. We trust each other, we car share, we jump over each other, we cheer when someone nails a move or smashes to the ground. When one of us is hurt, we help. When someone feels bad, we make them feel better. If you mess with one of us, you mess with all of us. We are friends and comrades united by our skates, and I feel so incredibly lucky to have them. Ask me about any other hobby and I will hesitate and admit I'm not that good. But with skating, I know I am. It's a confidence I've never known. As a skater, I can be free because I can be utterly me without the fear of being too much or too little. So should you skate? Yeah, if you want something that will make you feel free. But be prepared for smiles, laughs and fun, but also for hard work, falls, bruises and spending too much money. If you're unsure about whether to start, take the leap. Because if there's one thing skating can make you do, it's believe in yourself.